The wind howls like 1,000 dying wolves across the Norwegian fjords. Waves crash against black cliffs with the fury of ancient gods. Thunder splits the iron-gray sky. And there, standing on the precipice between Earth and Valhalla, stands a man who will either save his people or damn them all to oblivion. This is the story of Ragnar Sigurdsson, the boy who became a legend, the warrior who defied the gods, and the king whose greatest enemy wore the face of his most trusted brother. The year is 845 AD. The North is a realm of ice and iron, where survival means brutality and weakness means death. Young Ragnar is 17 winters old when he watches his father, Jarl Sigurd the Bold, butchered like an animal in his own mead hall. The assassin, his father's blood brother Jarl Eirik the Red, a man Ragnar called uncle, a man who shared their bread and their battles. The betrayal cuts deeper than any blade. Eirik's warriors storm through the longhouse, their axes singing songs of treachery. Blood pools on wooden floors that still smell of last night's feast. Ragnar's mother, Astrid, fights like a valkyrie with a kitchen blade, screaming ancient curses as she's struck down. "Run, Ragnar," she gasps, her dying breath forming frost crystals in the frigid air. "Run and remember asterisk." But Ragnar doesn't run, not yet. Hiding behind the great stone hearth, he watches through the smoke and chaos as Eirik plants his boot on Sigurd's corpse. The flames reflect in Eirik's eyes, not the eyes of a warrior, but of a demon. "The weak have no place in the new order," Eirik declares to his men, raising his father's severed head. "This land belongs to those with the stomach to take it." The roar of approval from the traitors echoes in Ragnar's skull like a war drum that will never stop beating. That night, as snow falls like the tears of forgotten gods, Ragnar escapes into the wilderness wearing nothing but his father's broken sword and his mother's final words carved into his heart. The cold bites through his thin tunic. His bare feet leave bloody prints in the snow. Wolves circle in the darkness, their eyes gleaming like distant stars. He should die, any other boy would. But Ragnar Sigurdsson is not any other boy. 3 years pass like 3 lifetimes. Ragnar survives in the brutal wilderness, learning to hunt, to kill, to become something more than human. He lives among outlaws and exiles, the forgotten men and women cast out by jarls like Eirik. They teach him their secrets, how to track a man through a blizzard, how to kill silently with a bone knife, how to read the omens in raven flight and blood patterns in fresh snow. But his greatest teacher is an enigmatic figure known only as the Wanderer, a one-eyed old warrior who appears from nowhere during a winter storm, saving Ragnar from a bear that should have torn him apart. "Do you know why you survived, boy?" the Wanderer asks, his voice like grinding millstones, his single eye penetrating Ragnar's soul. "Because the gods have marked you, but marked for what asterisk, glory or damnation, that choice is yours alone." The Wanderer trains Ragnar in the old ways, the berserker rage, the shield wall formations, the manipulation of men's hearts through fear and loyalty. "A true king," he says while they spar with practiced swords in knee-deep snow, "doesn't just command warriors. He becomes asterisk their hope, their fear, their god." During this time, Ragnar also encounters Lagertha. She appears like a storm spirit, a shieldmaiden leading a band of women warriors who have survived Eirik's purges. Her hair is the color of wheat fields Ragnar barely remembers, her eyes sharp as Frankish steel. She holds a spear to his throat the first time they meet. "Give me one reason not to kill you, Sigurdsson," she demands. "Your father's weakness invited Eirik's knife. Why should his son be any different?" Ragnar doesn't flinch. "Because I'm going to take back what's mine, and when I do, those who stood with me will be remembered in saga and song. Those who didn't," he pauses, letting the winter wind fill the silence, "will be forgotten like morning frost." Lagertha lowers her spear. A ghost of a smile crosses her scarred face. "Then we have an accord, boy king." Their alliance is born in that moment. Two, survivors recognizing in each other the same hunger for vengeance, the same refusal to bow. But beneath the professional respect, something else grows, something dangerous. By the time Ragnar turns 23, he commands a force of 300 warriors, outcasts, slaves, and dispossessed men who see in him the promise of a better world or at least a more glorious death. They call themselves the Ulfheithnar, the Wolf Coats, and their reputation spreads like plague across the frozen lands. Eirik the Red has grown fat and complacent on Sigurd's stolen throne. His cruelty has multiplied. Villages burn at his whim, children starve while his jarls feast, and anyone who whispers Ragnar's name is fed to dogs. But Eirik makes a fatal mistake. He believes Ragnar is still the frightened boy who fled into the snow. The first strike comes during the midwinter feast. Eirik's finest warriors are drunk on mead and overconfidence when Ragnar's Ulfheithnar emerge from the blizzard like vengeful spirits. They've painted themselves in ash and blood, their war cries splitting the frozen night. The gates of Eirik's stronghold, Ragnar's childhood home, are weak from years of neglect. They fall within minutes. The battle is a symphony of brutality. Steel rings against steel. Men scream as axes bite through leather and bone. The snow turns crimson under the light of burning buildings. Ragnar moves through the chaos like death's own avatar, his father's reforged sword, now called Skullcrusher, singing its terrible song. He's no longer the boy who hid behind the hearth. He's become something his enemies whisper about in terrified prayers, a force of nature wrapped in human skin. But when Ragnar finally corners Eirik in the great hall where his father died, something unexpected happens. Eirik doesn't beg, doesn't plead, instead he laughs, a sound like breaking ice. You think this is victory? The old Jarl spits blood onto the same floor where Sigurd fell. You think killing me changes anything? Your father was weak, Ragnar. He believed in honor, in mercy, in limits. That's why I put him down like a sick horse. You murdered my family, Ragnar roars, pressing his blade against Eirik's throat. I freed you from their weakness. Eirik's eyes gleam with mad certainty. Look at yourself. Would the soft boy you were 6 years ago have led this raid? Would he have the stomach to do what's necessary? I made you, Ragnar. Your father gave you life, but I gave you purpose. The words hit harder than any weapon. For one terrible moment, Ragnar hesitates, because he recognizes the horrifying truth in Eirik's words. Everything he's become, every ruthless decision, every calculated cruelty, it all stems from that night of betrayal. Lagertha's voice cuts through his paralysis. Don't let him poison you with philosophy. A murderer is a murderer, whatever his reasons. Ragnar's blade falls. Eirik's head rolls across the bloodstained floor. But the seed of doubt has been planted. Ragnar reclaims his father's throne, but ruling proves far more treacherous than conquering. The Jarls who supported Eirik still hold power. The common folk are starving after years of exploitation. And worst of all, Ragnar discovers the bitter truth of leadership. Sometimes cruelty is necessary. When a neighboring Jarl refuses to bend the knee, Ragnar must choose between appearing weak or massacring an entire settlement. When food grows scarce, he must decide who eats and who starves. When a popular warrior challenges his authority, he must kill a man who could have been a friend. Each decision chips away at the idealistic boy, who once dreamed of being different from his enemies. Lagertha becomes his most trusted advisor, and more. Their relationship evolves from mutual respect to something deeper, though neither dares speak its name. She's the only one who sees the cost of his choices, the way his eyes grow colder with each passing moon. You're becoming what you hated, she tells him one night as they stand on the same cliff where this story began, watching northern lights dance across the sky like the gods' own war banners. Then what would you have me do? Ragnar's voice carries the weight of 1,000 impossible choices. Every mercy I show is seen as weakness. Every kindness invites rebellion. The world doesn't reward good men, Lagertha. It devours them. Perhaps, she says quietly, or perhaps the measure of a true king is that he remains good despite the world's darkness. But before Ragnar can respond, a messenger arrives with news that will change everything. Jarl Rorik of the Eastern Shores, Ragnar's childhood friend, the brother of his heart who fought beside him through the years of exile, has been secretly corresponding with Frankish Christians. Worse, he's promised them information about Viking raids in exchange for gold and land. The evidence is irrefutable. The betrayal cuts deeper than Eirik's original treachery because Rorik wasn't raised in corruption. He chose it. When Ragnar confronts him, Rorik doesn't even have the decency to look ashamed. "Look around you, brother," Rorik gestures at the harsh landscape beyond the longhouse. "What future do we have? Endless winters, endless wars, endless struggle for scraps. The Franks offer peace, prosperity, a god who promises salvation instead of demanding endless sacrifice. They offer chains, Ragnar snarls. Pretty chains maybe, but chains nonetheless. You'd sell our people's freedom for their comfort." "I'd save them from extinction," Rorik's facade cracks, revealing desperation beneath. "Can't you see it, Ragnar? Our way of life is dying. The Christians grow stronger every year while we tear each other apart over honor and glory that feed no children and warm no hearths. I'm trying to secure a future before we have none left." The argument rages through the night. Warriors of both factions gather outside, hands on weapons, ready to turn brother against brother once more. Lagertha counsels execution, quick, public, a message to all who'd consider betrayal. But Ragnar remembers Rorik teaching him to swim in icy fjords, remembers him crying at Ragnar's mother's funeral, remembers 1,000 shared moments that made them more than friends. "I exile you," Ragnar finally declares. "Take your people and go. But if you ever return, if you ever raise a hand against our people again, I will hunt you across all 9 realms and feed your corpse to ravens." Rorik's expression crumbles. "You think mercy makes you better than Eirik. You're just weak like your father." He leaves before dawn, taking 50 warriors with him, men who believe in his Christian God and Frankish gold. The next morning, Ragnar stands alone on the cliff, watching Rorik's ships disappear into fog and distance. Lagertha finds him there, silent as stone. "You made the right choice," she says, though her voice lacks conviction. "Did I?" Ragnar's hands clench and unclench on his sword hilt. "Eirik's words haunt me, Lagertha. What if he was right? What if mercy is just another word for weakness?" Before she can answer, the world explodes into chaos. A massive war horn blasts across the fjord, not once but 3 times, the signal for invasion. Hundreds of ships appear from the morning mist, their sails bearing the symbol of the Frankish cross. And at their head, dressed in foreign armor, stands Rorik. The betrayal wasn't exile, it was reconnaissance. Ragnar's mercy has brought an army to his doorstep. But that's not the worst of it. As Ragnar rallies his warriors for what seems like certain doom, the Wanderer appears one final time. But now his disguise falls away like morning mist, revealing his true nature, Odin Allfather himself, the god of war and wisdom, death and poetry. "You wondered why I trained you," Odin's voice resonates with the power of creation itself. "You are my champion, Ragnar Sigurdsson. This moment, this choice is why you were born. Will you become the ruthless king this world demands, secure victory through any means necessary? Or will you remain true to the better man you fought to be, even if it costs you everything?" The god's single eye burns with terrible knowledge. There is a way to win this battle, a dark ritual, a sacrifice of innocence, a pact with powers that will ensure your enemy's destruction. Your father refused such power, that's why he died. But you are stronger, are you not? Ragnar understands the true test now. Every challenge, every betrayal, every impossible choice has led to this moment. Odin isn't offering salvation, he's offering damnation wrapped in victory. The Frankish army begins its advance. Trumpets blare. Thousands of soldiers march toward his small force of defenders. Lagertha grabs his arm. Ragnar, we have to decide. Whatever you choose, I stand with you. The woman he loves, his remaining warriors, hard men and women who believe in him, the innocent villagers sheltering behind their weak walls, all of them looking to him for salvation. And the God of his ancestors offering power at a price that would destroy his soul. No. The single word rings across the preparing battlefield like a bell of doom. Odin's expression doesn't change, but something like approval flickers in that terrible eye. You refuse divine power. I refuse to become my enemy, Ragnar declares. If we're going to die, we die as ourselves, not as monsters wearing our own faces. The god fades like morning fog, but his final words linger. Then prove that your way is stronger, son of Sigurd. Prove that mercy can survive in a world of wolves. The Frankish army crashes against them like a tidal wave against stone. The battle is hopeless from the start. For every Christian soldier that falls, 2 more take his place. Ragnar fights like the berserker he is, skullcrusher reaping lives in terrible arcs. Lagertha's spear dances through enemy ranks like lightning given form, but they're being overwhelmed, pushed back foot by bloody foot toward annihilation. Then another horn sounds. From the eastern hills a force appears, not Frankish, Viking. Rorik's warriors. But they're not reinforcing the Christian army, they're attacking it. Ragnar watches in stunned disbelief as his exiled blood brother crashes into the Frankish flank, his battle cry rising above the chaos. For the old gods. For Ragnar. The tide turns. Caught between 2 forces, the Frankish army begins to break. When the battle finally ends, when the field is strewn with the dead of 3 armies, and the snow runs red with the blood of true believers and false converts alike, Ragnar finds Rorik. His friend is dying, a Frankish spear through his gut. I'm sorry, Rorik gasps, each word costing him precious blood. The Christians promised peace, but they wanted slaves. They showed me their truth when they demanded I lead them against you. I realized some things are worth fighting for. Some brothers are worth dying for. Tears the first Ragnar has shed since childhood cut tracks through the gore on his face. You stupid, glorious fool. Why did you come back? Rorik's laugh becomes a cough. Because you taught me something I'd forgotten. Mercy isn't weakness, brother, it's the hardest form of strength. Your father knew that, you knew that. His grip tightens on Ragnar's hand. Don't let the world change you. Be the king he would have been proud of. Be the man I should have been. The light fades from Rorik's eyes as the northern wind carries his soul to whatever awaits beyond. Victory, but at devastating cost. Half of Ragnar's warriors lie dead. The villages are burned. And word spreads that the Frankish church will send more armies, larger armies, until the pagan north is baptized or buried. That night, as funeral pyres burn like fallen stars across the battlefield, Lagertha finds Ragnar standing once more on that cliff where the story began. They'll come again, she says simply. More soldiers, more ships, more priests with their god of love who kills anyone who won't love him back. I know. We might lose. Everything we fought for might burn. I know. She takes his hand. And you'd still choose mercy, still refuse to become the monster. Ragnar looks out over his wounded land, his dying people, the impossible future ahead. He thinks of his father's idealism, Eirik's cynicism, Rorik's journey from betrayal to redemption, and Odin's terrible test. Every day, he says finally. I'll choose it every day, even knowing what it costs. Because the moment we believe cruelty is necessary, the moment we accept that becoming monsters is inevitable, that's the moment we've already lost. Not the battle, but ourselves. Lagertha leans her head against his shoulder, this warrior woman who's seen every horror the world can offer. Then we lose together if we must, but we lose as ourselves. They stand together as the northern lights dance overhead, green and gold and silver, like the gods painting eternity across the heavens. History tells us that Ragnar Sigurdsson ruled for 30 more years, that he beat back 3 more Christian invasions through tactical brilliance rather than ritual sacrifice, that he established laws protecting the weak, codes of conduct that balanced strength with compassion, and a society where mercy wasn't mistaken for weakness. Did he succeed in changing the Viking world? Not entirely. Darkness still existed. Cruelty still found purchase in human hearts. But he proved something that echoes across the centuries. That choosing to remain human in an inhuman world is the most Viking thing of all. That true strength isn't the absence of mercy. It's having the power to destroy and choosing instead to build. That the greatest warriors aren't those who never fall, but those who rise after every fall, still believing in something better. The sagas call him Ragnar the Mighty, but those who truly knew him, who fought beside him and died for him, called him something else. Ragnar the Unbowed, Ragnar the Merciful, Ragnar the Man. And in a world of gods and monsters, perhaps being human, flawed, struggling, but always striving toward the light, is the most legendary thing of all. The wind still howls across those Norwegian fjords, waves still crash against ancient cliffs, and somewhere in the frozen north, the spirit of a king who chose mercy over monstrosity stands eternal watch, reminding us that the greatest battles aren't won with swords. They're won with the choices we make when no one's watching. They're won by being the person we'd want our children to remember. They're won by standing on that cliff between Earth and Valhalla, feeling the weight of impossible decisions, and choosing, always choosing, to remain true to the best parts of ourselves. This is the secret of the Viking Age. Not that they were fearless, but that they were afraid and fought anyway. Not that they never doubted, but that they doubted and believed anyway. Not that they always chose right, but that they never stopped trying. And in the end, that's the only victory that matters. From the saga of Ragnar Sigurdsson, as told by the skalds who knew him, loved him, and watched him become legend. Skál to the fallen, skál to the living. And skál to every person who chooses mercy when the world demands brutality. For you are the true warriors, the true kings and queens, the true heirs of Ragnar's impossible dream.